Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished dignitaries, and guests. My name is Andy Pandey, and I am absolutely honored to be able to start off this TLI with a few words of inspiration. Living out legendary leadership. That theme has some real weight to it. Legendary is not just ordinary, it's something that stands the test of time. I have my own definition of legendary leadership, but I'm not a fan of talking at people, and I'd love to get some audience participation here. What does legendary leadership mean to you? Can I get one volunteer? If you're interested in participating, if you could just raise your hand and I'll call on you. All right, I see Daphne. Daphne, would you mind coming off mute and sharing?
Sure. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Daphne Lasan, Broadview outgoing president, incoming VPM. For me, a legendary administrative tenure is marked by people remarking for a few years afterwards that they remember the year that Jerome or Andy or Juan was president because he established that tradition of, I think, to be legendary, you need to be visionary enough to imagine programs which will have a lasting impact once you are no longer that administrator. So for a VPM, perhaps um, a recruitment experience like young leadership or speechcraft, or a vice president of education, perhaps really establishing a solid mentorship program and process, which continues for years after your tenure is done with. That's what I think legendary is, something which is memorable in the culture of the club that you have left long after you have left the position. I thank you. I pass the mic back to you.
Thank you so much, Daphne. I really appreciate you sharing. Jerome, I'm sorry, I'm just going to call on one volunteer today, but I really appreciated the words you said of lasting impact. I really think that that really captures the vision of legendary leadership. At the same time, I also got to thinking whether that lasting impact that a legendary leader will make, does that just happen overnight? Or is that through a series of values that is lived and demonstrated in your life over time? So I'm going to share my experience of becoming a legendary leader. I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit to the fall of 2019. I took a leap of faith and decided to join the Big Brothers Big Sisters program as a big brother. The Big Brothers Big Sisters program is a program where volunteers are matched with underprivileged youth from 5 to 18 years old to create a positive impact in their life. My experience of having mentors guide me throughout my life was so invaluable that I knew I wanted to give back. My first meeting with my little brother named Joshua can be summed up in 2 words: painfully awkward. Joshua had no idea who I was, why I was coming into his life, and not why I was so hyperactive on asking this 12-year-old so many damn questions. After an hour of one-word answers, aggressive eye rolls, and vibes that screamed, "Please leave," I walked away thinking, well, that was a disaster. Maybe I'm more of a medium brother than a big brother. But I had committed to the program and I kept showing up. I kept seeing Joshua twice a month for the next 6 years. During that time, I tried my best to live out the value that leadership is not just in the big one-time gestures, but rather lived in everyday values, every day showing up. Now, when I saw Joshua on a cold winter morning last November, he mentioned that our relationship was one of the most important parts of his life, and he had even mentioned that his college essay was about the impact my mentorship had had on him. I'm not going to lie to you, hearing this almost made me tear up. And in that moment, I knew that building leadership is brick by brick, day by day, event by event, and that's what can lead to a legendary impact. Last weekend, I witnessed Joshua walk across the stage as he graduated high school with honors and got a full ride to college. Witnessing this experience and the journey we've had together over the past 6 years really drove home that belief for me that showing up over and over in day-to-day actions and holding the values of leadership in your heart are the building blocks on the journey to legendary leadership. You don't need a cape, you don't need a TED Talk or 10,000 Instagram followers to be legendary. You just need to show up with heart, with consistency, and with purpose. So I want to turn this back to you. How can you be a legendary leader? It doesn't have to be a colossal task. And as Daphne shared, it's about that consistent action of having that lasting impact. So what are the things that you can do today that seem routine, but make a legendary impact on those around you over time? What is that small marble that can be moved today that can turn into a gigantic mountain in a few years' time? I hope today that you will take that step and one day reflect back on the legendary impact you have made on those around you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope everyone has a legendary TLI today.
Thank you, Andy, for that legendary speech and being an amazing big brother to a young man. Now, I just wanted to transition into giving a warm welcome to our trio, Sandra Lane, Valerie Smith, our Program Quality Director,
Hello, everyone.
and Latrina Odo, our Club Growth Director.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much. These are definitely our wonderful trio that makes things work out here in the district. Now, without further ado, we're going to get to the cream of the crop, our keynote speaker, Craig Valentine. I just want to tell you a quick thing about Craig. I had an opportunity to talk with him over the phone. And first of all, he's an amazing gentleman. He's been over 30 years in sales. And I can tell you, he can sell you anything. He sold me that today he's about to knock it out the park. I just want to go ahead and give that warm welcome to Craig Valentine and thank him for coming out today. Craig, you have the floor.
Herbert, anytime District 103 asks me to do something, I'll say yes. And the reason why is not just because of Herbert, not just because of Valerie, but you might know this, I won the world championship in Chicago. Yeah. So, but I have to be honest, being the world champion is a blessing and a curse. Because if you've been walking towards me in the Chicago airport 2 days after I won the world championship, you would have seen my wife on one side of me and me carrying this gigantic crystal trophy, just walking through the Chicago airport, the Midway airport. And everybody's looking at me like, wow, who is that? I even thought I heard a lady say, is that Denzel Washington? Valerie, you didn't have to laugh that hard. But this is when I realized my life would never be the same, Andy. I'm walking through the airport, and this lady in a pink dress comes up to me in the middle of the airport, and she starts reading the bottom of my trophy. She says, 1999 World Champion of Public Speaking. Wow. Say some things. Yeah, Herbert, I'm speechless. But that's when I realized no matter where I go in life, people are going to say, would you mind saying some things? So I came to a fundamental understanding about my life as a speaker and really about yours too. I can no longer get ready to speak. I have to stay ready to speak. My motto is don't get ready, stay ready. But guess what? It's not just for speaking, it's also for leadership. You can't just get ready to lead. You have to stay ready to lead because people are always going to need you. In fact, think about this. When I was in prison visiting, an inmate came up after my presentation. He said, Craig, I'm getting out of here in a few months, feeling good about life, and I'm back on the right track. I said, well, you know, there's a quote by Will Rogers that says you might be on the right track, but if you just stand there, you're going to be run over. So I left that day thinking, well, I'm glad he's back on the right track, but maybe I'm standing still as a speaker. Andy, be honest, have you ever wondered whether you're getting better or worse at what you do? Yeah, so I decided to call up this lady who's supposed to be one of the best public speaking coaches in the country. And I said, listen, I need a coach, and I need to be coached by you. She said, are you sure? She was British. She said, are you sure? I said, yes, I did my research. I know you're the one I want to coach me. She said, do you know how much I charge? I said, it doesn't even matter. She said, well, that's great. That's wonderful. That's a fantastic attitude. That will be $4,000 per day. I said, I'm pretty happy with the skills that I have. Thank you very much. But so often people look at the price of doing something and they don't look at the cost of not. So I actually ended up going out to Vegas and I got coached by a lady named Patricia Fripp. And here's what I came to realize, Herbert. Even though I was the world champion, I was nowhere near where I needed to be as a speaker. I came to understand that what got me here won't get me there. But guess what? Latrina, it's the same with leadership, right? What got you here won't get you there. It always takes new tools, new strategies, new ideas. Do you agree? Yeah, so that's what you're going to get today. You're going to get some new ideas on leadership and how to take your leadership to another level and get remarkable results. Okay? And it comes to you in what I call the 3 R's. And if you're good, you might get a 4th R at the end. I'm going to try to see if I can change my view so I can see everybody here. Gallery, here we go. There we go. All right. Comes to you in the form of what I call 3 R's. I want you to listen to the first R. And I said this to an audience in Ottawa. So I want you to just watch what I said here in Ottawa. Here we go. I already had it set up. Here we go.
Raise your hand if you feel like sometimes reality hurts. Yeah, now be honest, have you ever stepped on a scale and been forced to face reality? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably looking at me like, Craig, what do you know about stepping on a scale? I mean, look at you. You're obviously built like a Greek statue. I appreciate the compliment. But I can only say that because if you had seen me a few years ago, trust me, you would have seen a lot more of me. In fact, you should have been with my wife and me 6.5 years ago. We're taking my 6-month-old daughter, Tori, to her doctor's appointment. Now, raise your hand if you have kids. Then you know the doctor's always going to measure their length and their weight, right? Somebody said height. Let me explain the length when you turn them. Anyway. Doc walks in with his white coat and glasses. He takes Tori's length. Then he looks at my wife and me and he says, since Tori can't stand yet and she can't seem to sit still, we're going to need another method to take her weight. How about this? Why doesn't one of you step out into the hallway and step on the scale with Tori and then step on the scale without Tori and we'll take the difference as her weight? Now, I don't know if you've ever been around somebody who just recently gave birth, but my wife was looking at us like, oh, that's a wonderful idea for Craig to do. I said, no problem, I know what I weigh. I jumped up on that scale, I said, give me my daughter. I took my daughter, stripped her down to her diapers. I'm feeling good holding my 6-month-old daughter in my arms. I look down at that scale, I look back at my wife, I look back at that scale, I said, good grief, this is a fat baby.
Isn't it interesting, Daphne, when things go wrong, it's almost in our DNA to place the blame on somebody else, right? Isn't that ironic that I'm blaming my daughter for carrying too much weight? But be honest, Michael, how often do we blame others for not carrying enough weight, right? How often does one spouse blame another spouse? One employer blames an employee? Look, I'm from corporate America. How often does sales blame marketing? Marketing blames production. Production blames engineering. And when engineers learn to talk, I'm sure they'll blame somebody. Raise your hand if you're an engineer. Andy, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Andy, have you ever given a speech to a group of engineers?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
It might be easy for you because you're an engineer, but for me, it's hard because, correct me if I'm wrong, but engineers, they laugh like this.
Yes.
Here's what I came to realize from that simple situation with my daughter. Average leaders place blame, exceptional leaders take it. Average leaders place blame, exceptional leaders take it. Now let's get interactive here for a second. Why in the world would you want to take the blame as a leader for something you didn't do, for something that might not have been your fault? I want an answer here. Why would you dare to take the blame for something that might not have been your fault? Feel free to unmute and answer. You're accountable for your whole team. Thank you for that. Good. And you can answer out loud too. I didn't win the world championship of reading.
It's, I think part of accepting the blame is to teach that, you know, a fail or a mistake, it's your first attempt in learning, and it's okay to make a mistake if you own it and you improve from there. Because there are
And
people
Shelley,
that are afraid to do that.
yeah, and Shelley, you know what else it teaches? Think about this for a second. Stay with me.
Yep.
If you're a leader, aren't you responsible for the energy of your environment?
Mhm.
Okay, if you want people pointing fingers and placing blame, who do you think that starts with?
Put it on me every time. I do that in my
Exactly.
organization. Put it on me, I'll take it, and let's move on and make it better.
Because not only are you teaching them that failure is okay as long as you improve from it, you're also teaching them when things go
Accountability.
wrong, put it on you.
Yep.
Say, hey, so if people say, hey, I can do better, who's that on? It's on you. So you're teaching them. So here's what I suggest as a leader: share the credit and take the blame. Share the credit and take the blame. That will automatically make you the type of leader that others respect, admire, and want to follow. Share the credit, take place. Now, since I'm talking to Toastmasters here, I got to be honest with you. As the world champion, every year I have contestants, speech contestants, Valerie, contact me and say, Craig, I was in the speech contest and everybody in the room thought I won, except the judges. So I'm going to switch districts and I'm going to do this and I'm going to change this up and I'm going to flip this up. And you know what I say to myself? That person will never win. You know why? Because those who blame stay the same. Let me say that again. Those who blame stay the same. So in my opinion, it's important not just to face reality, which is the first order remarkable results, but take what I call the 100% rule. It's 100% on me to change it. Because if you take the 100% rule, Valerie, that's the only way we can turn something that happens to us into something that happens for us. 100% rule. Face reality. That's the first order remarkable results. Let's look at the second order remarkable results. Raise your hand if you know any negative people. Don't point. People pointing to different squares on here. Don't point. Raise your hand if you are a negative person. Look around, look around. We all know one, but no one is one, right? I don't even think that's mathematically possible. Here's what I should ask you, Jeffrey. Raise your hand if the negative person you know is somewhere on this Zoom. If they're in the square right next to you, just blink twice. Just blink. I'll know who it is. Because here's something I've never seen in my entire life, Charles. I've never seen a positive leader with a negative team. I've never seen a positive leader with a negative. In fact, why is that? Here's what I want you to do for a second. I want you to put your right arm straight out like so. Just put your right arm straight out. Make sure you keep it absolutely parallel to the ground. Absolutely parallel to the ground. Now, I want you to take your right thumb and your right index finger, put them together like so. Right? Make sure your arm is still absolutely parallel to the ground. Okay? Now, as fast as you can, without hurting yourself, I want you to take your right thumb and your right index finger, put it on your chin. Now look at yourself and say, that's not my chin. That's right. I got you, Shelley. I got you. You're not alone. Look at yourself and they say, that's not my chin. Now, there's a bunch of people trying to move it back to your chin right now, but I got you. I got you too, Charles. I got you. By the way, those of you up here, I have no idea what was going on, Herbert. No idea. But here's the thing. It makes perfect sense. Actions speak louder than words. People won't do as you say, they'll do as you do. And that's what happened to you, right? So, because I've never seen a positive leader with a negative team, here's something else I've never seen in my life. I've never seen an individual, Valerie, come close to living his or her goals or dreams if you hang around one negative person for an extended period of time. These people will drain you. So hopefully you understand what I'm talking about here. As a leader, you have got to stay away from the people with the crabs in a barrel mentality. You know what I'm talking about? I'm from Maryland. What are we known for? Thank you. Crabs. If you take live crabs and you put them in a barrel, Daphne, and you take the lid off of the top of the barrel, what's going to happen to the crabs? But every time a crab tries to crawl out, another one will claw at it and bring it back down. At least Maryland crabs. Every time a crab tries to crawl out, another one will claw at it and bring it back down. Claw at it and bring... Same exact thing negative people do. And I'm going to tell you, Jeffrey, nobody in your family, nobody in your circle, nobody in your life can rise. When I wanted to write my first book, The Nuts and Bolts of Public Speaking, I went to some friends of mine. Bad move. Herbert, evidently I forgot who I was talking to. Have you ever done this, taking some positive news to some negative people? Even in math, a positive times a negative is always a negative, right? So I went to my friends and said, I'm going to write this book on public speaking. Who better than me, the world champion of public speaking, to write a book on the art of public speaking? I'm so excited. I can't wait. And they looked at me and said, don't you know the odds of getting it published? Don't you know it probably won't work? Don't you know even if you self-publish it, you still have to market it, and not that many people know you, Craig. By the way, who do you even think you are? Why do you think so highly of yourself? Why don't you just come back down here in this barrel and join us? I was so upset about this, Sheila. I called a friend of mine. I said, Steve, you're positive. Tell me something. Tell me anything. Steve said, Craig, you write this book. I'll be the first one in line to purchase it. I said, Steve, that's $15.95. Hey, Michael, just because he's nice doesn't make it free. All right? So here's what I'm saying to you today, Andy, Spiro. Find your Steves. Find your Steves. Find those like-minded, positive individuals who can help insulate you from the negative people, because trust me, the negative people are coming. True or false? A negative person can walk in a positive room and suck up all the energy. And Georgiana, isn't that the same energy that we need to rise? I want to put it this way for a second. Have you ever been on a flight with a lot of turbulence? Thank you, Michael. When you're on a flight with a lot of turbulence, how's that feel? And when you're on a flight with a lot of turbulence, isn't the pilot's tone important? Right, Sheila? Because the pilot will get on there. We are experiencing some turbulence. We're going to take this flight to another elevation and see if we can miss some of that bumpy air. You just sit back, relax, and have a great rest of the flight. Now do it with me. Everybody on the flight feels better. We all go, ah. Now, if the pilot got on there and said, whoa, did you feel that one? Chances are, Andy, you're looking for the nearest exit. Keep in mind, it might be behind you. What I'm saying to you today is you are the pilot. People are watching what you do. They're listening for your tone. Your actions speak much louder than your words. Got to be a positive pilot. I had a real positive lady in my Galveston, Texas audience one day. She stood up at that point in the speech and said, I don't care about the turbulence. Just sit me next to the black box, because the black box always survives. Shelly, I was like, look, you put me next to the black box and things go wrong, you're going to hear all kinds of language you never expected to hear coming out of that thing. They're going to be like, that was the speaker? Yeah, he spoke. Not the way I want to be remembered, but find your Steves, and more importantly, be one. Be one. I gave a commencement speech to the University of Phoenix graduation class. And just to make things more complicated, it was in Minnesota. And after the whole ceremony, everybody's walking out of it was an orchestra hall. And I'm one of the last people to walk out. And as I walked out, I noticed this real big, tatted up guy, looked like a Harley Davidson dude, standing in the doorway. And he looked at me, Jerry, and he said, "Were you the speaker?" I said, yes, I was. And he said, "My daughter just walked across the stage, despite the fact that I've been the crab in a barrel her entire life." I said, "Well, now that you've faced that reality, you can change it." And he walked away, thankfully. Don't just find your Steves, be one. Okay? So it's about reality, it's about relationships. This is what I want to do, because we're a little bit ahead of time here. I want to do this for a second, because we do have time. Is not being negative the same as being positive? Is not being negative the same as being positive?
No.
No, because Patrick, being positive is a proactive thing, right? One of the best pieces of advice, I think it came maybe from Peter Drucker or Ken Blanchard, was, as a leader, catch people doing something right and recognize them for it. Catch people doing something right and recognize them for it. What do most people catch you doing? Something wrong, right? Catch people doing something right and recognize. So we're going to prove this premise right now. I wish you could partner up, but we can't. But we're going to do this anyway. I want to give you 30 seconds to think about one of the greatest praises or compliments you feel like you've ever received. Okay? We're going to do this right now. We're going to take a moment of silence. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about one of the greatest praises or compliments you feel like you've ever received. And whenever you're ready, I want you to raise your hand. I'm going to call on you. Okay? So ready? All right, good. We got one already. Let me go with Jeffrey. Jeffrey, go ahead and unmute. And by the way, before we start, Jeffrey, here's the premise. When you catch people doing something right and recognize them for it, two things happen. Number one, the person feels good about it. Number two, they want to do it again. Okay? So Jeffrey, what was one of the greatest praises or compliments you feel like you've received?
It was late in my mother's journey with Parkinson's disease, and she was home and I was caring for her. And I beat myself up a lot mentally, like I'm not doing good. I could be doing a lot better. But even in the late stages of her condition, Craig, there'd be times when she'd say, "I really like being here." And when I thought everything was gone mentally, but she would say that, and that made me feel so good, and that I wanted to keep going and try to do the best I could for her.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Jeffrey. Thank you for that. And did you hear what he said? He answered the premise, right? He felt so good and he wanted to keep doing and caring for her. That's a lovely, lovely example. See why you should go first? Because now the bar is way up here, right? Jeffrey done put the bar way up here. Now all right, let me go with Shelly. Shelly, what do you think?
So I'm a disability advocate. I had to stop working because of my disability. And it's when I get the calls from someone that said, "You actually listened and you've helped, you've changed my life." And those are the days that give you the strength and the energy to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And they'll say, "I don't know how to pay you back." And I said, when you're stronger and you're doing better, I want you to pay it forward to someone else as well. But those are the days that make it all worthwhile.
See, I love that, because don't pay it back, pay it forward. Don't pay it back, pay it forward. And that's what you asked her those people to do. But you heard what Shelly said. She was willing to do it again, and she felt good about it. Catch people doing something right and recognize them for it. Now, think about this for a second before we go to the third one. Do you feel the energy on the Zoom right now? Right? The energy on the Zoom is at another level. And this is just because of them remembering the praise that they had. Now imagine, as a leader, if you're constantly catching people doing something right and recognizing them for it. Imagine what the energy would be like in your environment, which you're responsible for. Let me go to one more, and I'm going to go to Deborah. And in all my years of speaking, I have never seen anybody do this before. but Deborah put a picture of me looking back at me speaking today. So it makes me very welcome. Deborah, thank you very much.
That's actually a photo that you and I took together when you were here. We were at the countryside. We were at District 30, and I won some tapes or something, and we took photos together. So
I was
that's
going to say,
good.
duck out of the way so we can. Oh, there we are. Good, very good. All right, I got you now. I got the real you back. Okay, so Deborah,
One of my
what was one of the greatest praises or compliments?
I taught for 34 years. I stayed at one school for 32. And one of my parents' daughter called me and invited me to her surprise birthday party. I get there, all of the students knew who I was. I just could not remember any of them. They were introducing me, meet this kid, meet this kid. And one of the ex-students child walked up to me and said, "Can you be my teacher? I'm retired." I'm retired. He said, "Can you be my teacher?" I said, "Well, I'm not interested, but can you just help me with something?" And it made my heart feel good because that meant if that was an impression on him, his mom made an impression on him as well as the type of person and type of teacher that I was. And all of the students in all of them were saying, "We miss you. We miss you. When you coming back?" Never. I tell people I am now allergic to children except for my own.
But how did it make you feel when that
It made it not, it was, I'm feeling still emotional about that. It made me feel so good. And it made me feel out of the maybe thousands of children that I taught, at least I was successful with one and then others. I've had students to call me, "Can you come and be the wedding coordinator at my wedding? Can you come and be the MC?" The students are always reaching out to me, and that does make my heart feel good.
It's got to feel good.
It
And
does.
thank you, Deborah, very much. And you know what else that was? That conversation that she had with that one student, it told us that Deborah is legendary. Deborah is legendary. So fantastic. I always like to take 3 examples. By the way, if you're giving speeches and you're doing activities, take 3 examples. The rule of 3 keeps the rhythm going. But it's way high now, right? So I got to be honest, and hopefully you don't get mad at me about this, but I got to share my truth. The first time I ever did this activity about praise, I was kicking off the school year for a school district. It happened to be my school district that raised me. And so there were still some teachers around that I knew. And I was in front of them and I said, "Okay, I want you to partner up and talk about the greatest praise or compliment you've ever received." The very first person to come up, I said, "Okay, what was your greatest praise or compliment?" This is what she said. She said, "I never saw myself as a parent until 5 of my students came up to me one day after class and said, 'Mrs. Miller, you'd make a great mom.'" She said, "A year and a half later, I was married, and 2 years after that, I had my first child, and I love being a mom." And that's when I said, see, praise can get you pregnant. You seem like you're all right with that one. You seem like you're okay with that one. All right. Let's keep moving on. All right. So it's about reality. It's about relationships. But there's a relationship that a lot of people don't have that they should have. See, you've been watching me speak for maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes now, but you might not have noticed something about me. I'm what you call, let's see, what's the term? Black. Black. Yes, I'm black. That's what that's. Well, hold on. Let me tell you how I found this out. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Okay, more important question. Yeah, okay, good. Spiro, here's the more important question. Raise your hand if you're from there. Okay, good. Let's talk about them. Actually, I love Lancaster. It's a wonderful town. It's much more diverse than it used to be, but this is my truth. This is just what happened to me. 25 years ago, I used to be one of the lead trainers, one of the biggest trainers of one of the leading training firms in the United States. And anytime I had more than 25 people in my workshop, they would provide me with an assistant. And Valerie, most of the time, I never met the person before. So here I am early in the morning in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in the hotel, and I see a table. And on the other side of the table, I see a lady. And I'm thinking, this might be my assistant for the day. So Daphne, I walked up to her and I said, "Hi, I'm Craig Valentine. I'm the trainer today. I kid you not. This is exactly what she did." She said, "Oh, it's very..." She said, "You're the trainer?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Ooh, ooh, they're going to be shocked." I said, "Why are they going to be shocked?" She said, "Because you don't look like the regular trainer." I said, "I know I'm tall." She said, "Mm-mm." She said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're, hmm, you're black." I said, "What?" I said, "I tell you what, 5 minutes after I start my workshop, I want you to duck your head in here and see how shocked they look." She said, "Okay, but I'm telling you, they're going to be shocked." So I start my workshop at 9 o'clock. 9:05, she ducks her head in there. At 10:30, in my first break, she attacks me in the hallway. She said, "Oh my goodness, they were actually listening to you. You had them in the palm of your hand. They were listening to you." And then she looked at me as if to say, "And you're still black." What Deborah didn't realize was that when I went through Johns Hopkins University for my graduate degree, my MBA degree, I had a professor named Dr. C. And Dr. C used to always say, "You're always to something to someone. You're always to something to someone." Shelly, this has nothing to do with being black or white. This has to do with being to something to someone else. You might be too black, too white, too big, too small, too Republican, too Democrat, too Dallas Cowboys, too Dallas Cowboys, too Dallas Cowboys. But you're always to something to some. In fact, I want you to unmute and I want you to yell it out. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like you were to something before. I know your hand will go up. Raise your hand. And I want you to just unmute and yell it out or put it in the chat. What was it? Yell it out.
Too mouthy.
Smart, black,
Too
smart,
smart.
Too
intelligent.
Come on.
Come on.
Too happy.
Yeah.
Too happy.
Yeah.
Too direct.
Yeah.
Too
Too positive.
Positive. Too mean.
Yeah.
Positive.
Fantastic.
Bunch of them
Yeah.
up.
Fantastic. Okay, you can go back on mute now. That was fantastic. I heard all kinds of it. Yeah, you can go back on mute now. I heard too dark. I heard too small, too this, too that. I was in Minnesota one time. A guy said too handsome. And I was like, yeah, and obviously too humble. But you know what it is for you, whether you stated it or not. You know what it is for you. So one day I went to Dr. C. I said, "Dr. C, I get it. You're always to something to someone. What do I do about that?" He said, "Be too good for it to matter. Be too good for it to matter." You agree with that, Sandra? Be too good for it to matter. I said, "Okay, well, Dr. C, how do I do that?" He said, "I'll mentor you." That was the moment, Valerie, I realized the importance of mentorship. I truly believe if you're going to be a great leader, you should have a mentor in every major area of life. I'm a father. I have a fatherhood mentor. You might even know him. His name is Mark Brown, 1995 world champion of public speaking. I have mentors in every major area of life. Because think about this. If you're going to climb a mountain, don't you think you should go to somebody who already climbed it? Because they can tell you where to step, but more importantly, they can tell you where to avoid stepping. So what I'm saying to you today is, if you're going to be a great leader, you have to be willing to be led. And if you're going to be a great leader, I believe this: you should always have a mentor and always be one. That's the relationship that people need in their life that a lot of people don't have. So it's about reality. It's about relationships. What's the next R to remarkable results? I want you to nod your head if you agree with me on this. When you're in leadership, you're in sales. Go ahead and put yourself on mute. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody real quick.
What is wrong?
I'm going to
You
go
gotta
ahead.
calm down. You gotta calm down. You gotta calm down.
Let's go. Okay, I gotta mute that person. There used to be a way to mute everybody on here. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and catch that kid doing something right. All right. So, nod your head if you agree with me on this. When you're in leadership, you're in sales. Yeah. When you're in speaking, you're in sales. When you're in parenting, you're in sales. All right. The most effective leaders embrace that. The least, no problem at all, Alice. The least effective ones avoid it. So I'm gonna take you to Cartoon Craig here for a second and just talk about this. Never sell a product, always sell what? The results. Never sell a service, always sell the results. If you're in leadership, never sell an idea, always sell the results. If you're in leadership, never sell change, always sell the results. If you're going for a promotion, never sell yourself. Well, you know I have 15 years of experience. Nobody cares. Always sell the results. Let's go to Cartoon Craig and you can take a look at what I'm talking about here.
Never sell a product, always sell what? The result. Years ago, I went to buy my first car ever in life. And I went to the dealership, and the salesperson came up to me, and he said, "Are you looking at that car?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Good, let me tell you about it. This car has these types of brakes, this type of engine, this type of power, this type of window." What's he trying to sell me? The car. I just said, never sell a product, always sell what? The result. So I said, "Thank you, but no thank you, I'm not interested." I went to a different dealership, same day, different salesperson, same car. Now, I gotta be honest, he must have anticipated where I was in my life at that time. You know, young and single and looking to mingle. And feel free to use that one. And he came up to me and he said, "Are you looking at that car?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Ooh, you're gonna look good in that one." Yeah, man, you're gonna be flying down the road, the wind's gonna be blowing through your hair, and the girls, let me tell you, the girls will be all over you. What do you think I did? I said, "Where do I sign?" He made the sale not because he sold me the car, but he sold me what? The result, and he lied. Oh, I was lonely as I could be in that car. Just me and my payment.
Never sell a product, always sell the result. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Thank you, Jerry. A little bit later in the afternoon, we're going to talk about that when it comes to public speaking. Hopefully you join me for that bonus workshop that we're doing. Now, what we're going to do here in a second is go into a Q&A. I don't want to put any names out there, but they said, "We want you to give your speech and then tack on a Q&A at the end." I was going to bring this up this afternoon, but I'll bring it up right here. Never close your speech with the Q&A. Never, ever close your speech with the Q&A. Let me hear some whys. Why? Why not? Never close your speech with the Q&A. Why not? Go ahead and feel free to unmute.
Well,
What
people are
they
going to forget.
remember last, Craig.
Say it again.
What they remember last could be negative and then set a negative tone to the whole thing.
Thank you, Jerry. People remember best what they hear first and what they hear last. We need to be the absolute last thing in their ears. So you can have a Q&A, just don't make it the last thing that people hear. Plus, let's be honest. Can't some people ask some crazy questions? Valerie, the best two-day long management seminar I ever gave, I ruined it at the end because I asked the wrong question. I asked, "Are there any questions?" And I'll never forget a young lady in the front row. She looked up and said, "I love the reinforcement techniques you gave us to reinforce the behaviors of our employees. I'm just wondering, do you think these same reinforcement techniques will work with my horses?" That's not even the bad part. The bad part was a guy in the back stood up and said, "Nay." It was funny at the time, I'm telling you. Hilarious. It had to be there, but it was hilarious. But I don't want people leaving my speech thinking about horses. Right? I want them to think about my message. So we will have a Q&A in a moment. And the Q&A doesn't have to be about leadership. It could be about public speaking. It could be about any question you have for me. Okay? But before we go there, I want you to take 30 seconds, write down one idea you got from this program. Take 30 seconds, write down one idea that you got from this program. One thing you remember from this program. We've been talking about reality, relationships, and reform. Okay, take about 30 seconds, 15 seconds. All right, now put it in the chat or, yeah, there you go. Don't sell the product, sell the result. Good. See, I told you people remember what they hear last, right? What else? You can feel free to put it in the chat or yell it out. Take the blame. Yeah. Yeah, be a mentor and have a mentor. Okay, I'm good. I'm looking at these. Share the build
That you're
relationship.
always do something for someone.
Yeah. What's the solution to that? Be too good for it to matter.
Matter.
I know right now nobody cares that I'm brown if I'm making them green.
I have 3 ideas that I will take back to my club and through life forever.
Let me have them. What are they?
Those who blame stay the same.
Exactly.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Be too good for it to matter.
Love it.
You could apply that to family time.
Yes, indeed.
Be too good in life for anything else to matter.
Yeah. No matter what it is. That's right.
Yeah. I love it, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
The
And I love the way.
is-
What's the third one?
Never sell the product, sell the results.
Thank you so much. And who's this talking? I can't see you. Who was this?
Jana Herbert.
Thank you so much. And I love the way you delivered it too. You punched it the way it was supposed to be punched. And you'll learn later this afternoon, we don't want to speak to be remembered. We want to speak to be repeated. So I really appreciate you for repeating that message. All right, before we go into the Q&A, and thank you for sharing, continuing to share what you got from this. Before we go into the Q&A, I want to give away a prize. I want to give away a prize. Yeah. So here we go, Rosalind. We're going to give away a prize. But in order to get the prize, you have to understand how important it is. See, if you had picked up my phone in the year 2000, you would have heard a woman from the Michigan Consolidated Gas Company say to me, Craig, we want you to come out here and speak. And for 45 minutes, we're going to pay you $3,500. Now, keep in mind, this is the year 2000. I was a newbie speaker, Herbert. Even though I won the world championship, I was still a newbie speaker. So this was like my first, what I thought was a high-paid keynote speech. So I was very excited, but what else do you think I was? Scared to death. And to make things worse, Sharon, they flew me out first class. I get to the airport, they swept me up in a black limo, took me out, wined and dined me, drove me over to a 5-star hotel, swept me up the next morning in that same black limo, drove me over to the event. Sandra, as I'm walking up on stage, the lady who convinced her higher-ups to hire me tucks into my jacket pocket a check for $3,500. Daphne, I'm going out of my mind. And I looked that audience directly in the eyes and I gave them a $150 speech. I failed.
No, it's because you're too good for it to matter.
Maybe now, but then I failed miserably. It was so bad that the lady who convinced her higher-ups to hire me, like the one who will really go to bat for you, when I stepped off that stage, she wouldn't even look me in the eyes. I was absolutely devastated. Even the limo driver was looking at me like, man, I still got to take you back? That was the year 2000. Fast forward 25 years to today. I am not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because you know where I came from. But my rehire rate today exceeds 92%. You know what that means? That means if you hired me once, chances are very good you're going to bring me back again, Herbert. 92% of the time. But that begs the question. What made the difference? What made the difference between me being on a company's wall of shame? They never want to see my face again. And you know what? In all honesty, they're not going to. You know why? They don't even exist anymore. I think I put them out of business. I was that bad. But what made the difference between that and companies calling me up today saying, Craig, we want to have you for our next engagement. We're willing to work around your schedule. When are you free? I said, I'm not free. I'm available. Difference. But what do you think made the difference? Yell some things out. What do you think made the difference?
Reality.
Learn from the setbacks. Reality, definitely.
You're a different Craig.
A different Craig, different.
Confidence.
Yes,
You believe in
indeed.
yourself.
Accountability.
Good.
Experience.
You know your own
Coaching.
worth.
Experience, good.
Because
Coaching.
you're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Accountability.
didn't feel amazing after that instance, but thank you so much. My good friend Darren LaCroix. Raise your hand if you know Darren LaCroix. What's his mantra? Stage time, stage time, stage time. So I went to Darren one day. I said, Darren, what if you get a whole lot of stage time, but you're practicing the wrong things? Couldn't you be reinforcing negative habits? And sometimes those are hard to undo. So I'll tell you exactly what made the difference. After my embarrassment in the year 2000, which you shouldn't have to go through, and you won't if you listen closely, I rededicated myself to the art of public speaking. And I invested thousands upon thousands of dollars in coaching. You already know my coach was charging me $4,000 per day. And I went through year after frustrating year just trying to figure out a process that works. I'm like, just give me a process that works some of the time. And I'm happy to say that I got a process that works basically all the time. And I'm even happier because I was able to bottle up this process and put it into a system called, get this, legendary storytelling. The legendary storytelling course. Everything that made the difference between where I am now, where I was then and where I am now is in this course, in this system. Imagine what it can do for you. Now, if you were to look online, it says that it's $297. But we're going to do a contest. Because instead of it being $297, it's going to be the answer to one question. Okay? So whoever answers this question first and correctly gets access to my legendary storytelling course for life. All right? Here's the question. Now, I think we have to do this one in the chat. I think we got to do this one in the chat just to keep it fair, because that's the only way I'll be able to see who answers it first. It's a 2-word answer. And here it goes. Built on the premise that specifics stick. Here's the question. The lady who ran up to me in the Chicago airport and started reading the bottom of my trophy, what was she wearing? Oh, I saw it. Pink dress. Pink dress. Somebody check the chat. Somebody check the chat to see who said that first. Can somebody check the chat and see who said that first? Pink dress.
Pink dress, Elena Aguilar.
Elaine?
Elena Aguilar.
Elena is the winner. Let's give Elena a hand. Elena.
I'm so excited.
Where are you, Elena?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, no, I meant on the screen, but there you are. Okay, I see you. So I'll get with the organizers afterwards, and I'm going to give you lifelong access to the legendary storytelling course. Okay, this was a 6-week course that I took people through. So congratulations to Elena. Now, I will say it is available. It is available. It's $297. But come on, man. This is Chicago. I won the world championship in Chicago. You showed up and had nice energy for me today. So I'm going to do you a favor on the price, and I'm going to waive the shipping. Okay, so let's keep it moving. It's an online course. All right, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do today. It's not $297. Because you showed up today and because you're Chicago, it's usually, sometimes I put it on discount for $197. It's not $297. It's not even $197. If you act today, it's $97 for lifelong access. $97. Now you say, okay, Craig, how do I do it? How do I do it?
What's the results?
Here you go. Let me move this out of the way. This is where you can go to get it. Take a minute and write that down, legendarystorytellingreplay.com. legendarystorytellingreplay.com. All right. Before we close, we're going to open it up for Q&A. And like I said before, it can be about reality, relationships, reform, but a lot of times people have questions on public speaking. So feel free if you have a question to go ahead and raise your hand. Jana? Go ahead and
My
unmute.
question for you is, my name is Jana and I'm from Quad City Easy Speakers. I think you're amazing. Would you be willing to join my club?
Like join the club?
Yeah.
I don't think I can make you that promise, but I can give a shout out to your club. What's it called?
We're completely online.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll visit.
Yeah.
I can't commit to joining, but you know, I can commit to visiting at least once.
I can't help but ask everyone.
but if you open up that can of worms, I might then get that question from a few other clubs. So I don't know if but Jana, I really thank you for the compliment. I received that. I appreciate you. Now, before we go on, I got to do this for a second because I've never had this happen. I got to take a picture of Deborah's screen here. Bear with me. Don't worry, I already took a picture of all of you, so I've got you. All right. Any other questions? What other questions do you have? Could be about anything.
This is Rosalind Walker Lewis.
Hi, Rosalind.
Hi. The one question I have, understanding the use of AI in today's environment, knowing that some people are giving a lot of speeches, what is your take on AI as a tool?
Right now, I use it mostly for marketing, right? For example, I might write a website or a sales letter and I'll give it to AI and I'll say, make it better, right? Or I'll say, make it in this voice, or I'll say, make it so that it's more persuasive or what have you. So I'm using it mostly for marketing. But a lot of the people I coach, Rosalind, after a session with me, they'll go by and run things through a filter with AI and then they'll come back and see. So I think the important thing is to use it as a tool, but not to replace you. To complement you, but not to replace you. But certainly, I'm not the type of person who is going to take the stairs if there's an elevator. You know, if we have other ways of accelerating, I'm going to use them. So I'm going to embrace AI and not avoid it. Great question.
Tell us about the statues on your mantle.
All right. So, by the way, now, don't be disappointed. This is what you will see if you walk into my living room. However, right now, I'm actually in my office with a green screen. I have a green screen with a picture of my actual living room. So if I'm going back to me, I'll tell you 1 second here. Okay, so I've got George Washington Carver, and that came from me going down and consistently doing speeches at Tuskegee University, which is one of my favorite places to do speeches. Over here, I got a storytelling program. I went to Hong Kong, and that's where I got the Bruce Lee figurine here. And then I've got some Native American things here. I got Crazy Horse right here. So anywhere I go, I try to, and I love the question, but anywhere I go, I try to collect something that means something. So as Herbert knows, I just came back from India. I went there with 2 bags, came back with 4. So everywhere I go, I'm trying to collect something. And a lot of times, Spiro, they're gifts that people have given to me. So that's what it means. And if you actually go to my real living room, there's much more on the mantle now. All right, let me go with Secretary Elizabeth Jordan.
Hello, Craig. It's Elizabeth from District 71. You spoke at our conference years ago in Ireland. Do you remember that, in Dublin?
Dublin. You're going to see it. If you stick around for this afternoon, you're going to see a clip from that very speech.
Okay. My question is this. You spoke very highly about having mentors and having maybe several mentors.
Yes.
But I think the important point is, how does one go about choosing a mentor and making sure it's right for you?
When it came to Patricia Fripp, who coached me, I actually purchased some of her materials, and I purchased some materials from other speech coaches, and she was strong where I was weak, right? So I was strong on stories, but weak on structure. She had a Fripp framework, and I was like, I need that. And so I looked at other people like Doug Stevenson and other folks, and I said, no, she's strong where I'm weak. So that's why I said, I know you're the coach I need for me, right? Other ones, you just watch how they act, how they are. Like Willie Jolly. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Willie Jolly, right? Willie Jolly is a fantastic speaker, and I just watched the way he was in NSA, in National Speakers Association. And so I went to him one day and he said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "If I could just tap your brain every now and then." And he said, "Yes." Right? But then here's the other thing about that, Elizabeth. I got Willie engagements. See, it's not a one-way street. If you can go and approach people in a way of, "What can I do for you?" then it becomes a reciprocal relationship rather than just a mentor-mentee. That's kind of the way I would go about looking at it. Look for somebody who's strong where you're weak. Okay? Jana?
My question for you is, I know you offered us that at a discounted price. Do you in any way offer people to make payments who really, really want your program?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually on this website, there are several options.
Okay.
Right? Like there are several options. So just go look at it and you'll see there are several options
I'm sorry.
to pay over time. So yeah, you can have that, Janet. No need to apologize at all.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And feel free to stay in touch. Okay, now, one more question, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for this speech, but not for the next one. I'll see you hopefully this afternoon. Michael?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm new to Toastmasters, somewhat new, taking on the membership role. And I think with my speeches, I sometimes get confused if it's the best way to have things bullet pointed out or fully written out. I don't know if you have any tips on at the beginning, just keeping concrete thought and using either of those styles. Any tips on that?
Michael, here's what I realized. It's different for each person. For me, this might shock people. I've never written out a speech in my life. Never written it out word for word in my life. What I use is a graphic organizer, a framework. And I just put in, I know what story's coming next. I know what activity's coming next. And then I just rehearse. Okay. And I rehearse so much that I can abandon what I've rehearsed. Right? Because you're going to have people say things and speak up and spontaneous moments. You want to be able to jump on all that without losing your place. So that's me. There are other people that I coach who like to write it down word for word. There's a guy I'm coaching right now. He's about to get married. He's worth $6.9 billion. And he's working on a wedding speech. And he wants that thing to be word for word. But even if he has it word for word, he's going to have to rehearse it so much that it doesn't feel like it is. So for me, I use a graphic organizer. And I can share that with you if you want to go to the organizers and contact me afterwards. I'll share the organizer I use for it. Okay? All right. Okay. Hopefully this has been helpful. Before we wrap up, I just want to share one thing because we started a little early, going to end a little bit early. I didn't expect to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. We do have to be willing to handle failure. And sometimes the leaders in our life are not the ones that we think they are. You may have heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it right now. I'll close with this. A lot of people say to me, "Craig, when it comes to public speaking and leadership, of course these strategies work for you because you're a natural." And I got to be honest, Sharon, that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm the least likely person of anybody on this Zoom to be the world champion of public speaking. And Rosalind, I'm the least likely person of anybody on this Zoom to be a communicator of any kind. Because when I was 10 years old, something very disturbing happened to me for a 10-year-old. I was walking in the Columbia Mall where I lived. I mean, Valerie, I didn't live in the mall. I was just walking. You understand what I'm saying now. I was walking there. And I ran into a father of one of my friends. I'll refer to him as Mr. H. And Mr. H came walking up to me. I'm 10 years old by myself. And he says, "Hey, little Craigie, how you doing?" And I told him. He said, "What's going on in your life?" And I told him. But he kept looking at me really strange. And finally, he looked down at me and told me that I had a lisp. Do you know what a lisp is? A speech impediment. Here are his exact words. He said, "Craigie, don't talk anymore, because every time you open your mouth, you remind me of Daffy Duck." Shelly, what does that do to a 10-year-old kid? My confidence, my esteem, everything plummeted.
It destroys you.
Yeah.
And
And
a
for the next 4,
disability is just part of who we are. It does not define us. It is a piece that makes us even better.
that's right. And for the next 4 or 5 years, you couldn't get a word out of me. Right? The popular motivational speaker Les Brown says, when you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And I didn't want people making fun of me. But finally, after about 4 or 5 years, when I forced myself to face reality, and I started going through what I call the 3 or sometimes 4 R's to remarkable results, Anise, I can stand before you today as the 1999 world champion of public speaking. And that's not even the best part. Here's the best part, Anise, and I promise you this. The same people who kicked you when you were down will pat you on your back as you move forward because you persevered and you're remarkable. And the case in point is October 1999, 2 months after I won the world championship of public speaking. I'm at the parking lot of the Supreme Sports Club in Columbia, Maryland, where I lived, where I go work out, as you can tell. And I overheard a familiar raspy voice coming towards me. And I couldn't believe that 18 years after our incident in the mall, I was coming face to face with an older Mr. H. And I hadn't seen him in a while. And my heart's pounding because, he still had that hold on me. And he comes walking up to me, and he looks at me with those same strange eyes, and he says, "Hey, Craig, how you doing?" So I'm fine, Mr. H, and how are you? As clearly as I could. He said, "I read your articles. I saw you in the newspaper. Man, that is wonderful what you've been able to accomplish." He said, "But Craig, that one article, I can't believe that at the tender age of 10, some man would have the nerve to call you Daffy Duck." I said, "Mr. H, I don't quite know how to tell you this, but it was you." He said, "It was me?" I said, "Yeah, you don't even remember?" He said, "No, Craig, but I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Have you ever had 18 years of anger? All this stuff, Elizabeth Jordan, started to rise up. And I couldn't cry, but I couldn't hold back my mouth. And I said, "Mr. H, don't apologize. I would not be the speaker. I would not be the man. I would not even be the world champion I am today if you hadn't stopped and confronted me as a leader and made me face reality." So I said, "Mr. H, thank you. But as far as you not even remembering what you did to me, I think that's despicable." Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Can I get a picture with a smile? I want to get a picture with a smile if I can here. Back to you, Herbert. Chicago.
Wow. 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 Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
You're welcome.
And if you want to get more of Craig, remember that he is giving a bonus. So really stay tuned, stay with us all the way through, and you'll be able to get that bonus workshop. I want to thank you so much, Craig. Craig, so much powerful, powerful tokens, golden tokens.